Welcome to the Mismatch. I'm Chris Vernon, and joining me as he does every week from TheRinger.com is Dave Jacoby. Jacoby!
What's happening, Verno?
Hey, man, we've got a ton of stuff to get to. I went to a basketball game last night.
Did ya?
Yeah. I saw the Milwaukee Algonquin for the good land Bucks versus the Memphis Grizzlies. And what I witnessed last night was downright shocking, maybe appropriate for Halloween. By the way, before we get into it, how was Halloween? You've got young kids. You've got young kids. I saw one of them running around as a inflatable chicken. I
inflatable
that.
Chicken. It was very warm here in New York City last evening. The inflatable chicken led to a lot of sweating, so he was hot. So he ended up being a deflated chicken for most of the evening.
All right. Well, that's what the Bucks were as well. Deflated chicken.
They were a deflated chicken.
Yes, they were a deflated chicken. I mean, it was shocking to witness this in person. You know, we come on the show twice a week and we talk about all these different teams and we view them on television and we say, oh, it's not starting off great for the Nuggets. It's not starting off great for the Bucks. Those had been two of the big topics already this season, given that they've got, in many people's estimations, the two best players in the world and soft supporting casts around them. As I watched it unfold last night, what was shocking to me was the absolute lifelessness and how I sat there and I thought to myself, boy, this is a team that's like, you know, they're starting off 1-3. They're playing a team that's on a back-to-back that's really not in great spirits after losing to Chicago and Brooklyn in these last two home games they've had. They're down to two more starters in Desmond Bane and Marcus Smart. And so this is a perfect time to get right if you're the Bucks. And then to watch the game unfold the way it did. When I tell you it was Giannis and nobody else, anybody that did not witness this, and I will imagine many did not, go look at the box score. You could even look at plus minus. They're like even with Giannis on the court, and he had, I think, 37 in the game. But not Lillard, that was by far the worst game I have ever seen Damian Lillard play. Now, I have not seen all of his games over the course of his career, but certainly in person. I mean, I've watched this guy in person at big playoff events. And he looked miserable, like the whole time. He looked miserable. The team, like the connectivity didn't look there. And the whole time I texted you during the game and I said, Chris Middleton ain't fixing this.
No.
And you look up and down, you go, all right, what could they, is there some roster stuff they could do here? Is there somebody they're not playing that they should be playing? And the answer is no. And
no.
then I see, I mean, for goodness sakes, I see Taurean Prince out there. And then who do I see over on the Milwaukee bench? Darvin Ham. And I'm like, oh, Lakers fans have to love this. They gotta love this. And the crazy thing is, how about this one? And then Darvin Ham, he's just like living his life. Nobody even knows he's an assistant coach for the Bucks, for that matter. He's just trying to live his life. After the game, one of the guys that hounded Damian Lillard like his life was on the line was Scottie Pippen Jr. And after the game, he said, yeah, I took this one extra personal because there's a coach over there that didn't believe in me. I was like, damn!
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I was like, this guy can't catch a break. Darvin Ham's going to get blamed for them, too.
He's getting straights.
Yeah, right? I don't know, man. I know that Doc said, our transition defense is this, and we've got to get this right, and I've got to get back to work, but look, it's not going to be this bad, but goodness gracious, I just thought when you're 1-3 and you're playing a team that's has been in shambles recently, that you would try to be getting right, but instead it was the Grizzlies that got right, and Morant was truly otherworldly last night. One of the best games I've ever seen from a player in a half. In fact, it was downright historic. I think they said only 4 other guys since 96 had over 20 points, 9 and 8 in a half. And like the names are like Luka, Harden, I think Sabonis did it once. I mean, it's a short list, but he was otherworldly. And on the other hand, they've got nothing outside of Giannis, especially if Dame is not going to be good. And he was miserable last night. Tough.
I mean, it was one of the worst Dame performances you're going to see, and I've got some more on the Bucks later. But their problem, as you said, Chris Middleton is not going to fix their problem. Their problem is perimeter defense. They cannot stop any ball handling guard from getting to the rim, from getting to their spot, from getting to their shot, from getting whatever they want. They don't cover 3-point shooters. That is their problem. And Chris Middleton does not fix that problem. And they don't have anyone on the roster, as you said, that they could play more minutes that will fix that problem. This is a broken team. And you have to also look at Doc Rivers. Like, since Doc Rivers has taken over this team, they have not won basketball games. They just simply have not. And they're top to bottom really, really bad. And I'll get to the Bucks later, but we do have to start having the conversation of how does Giannis feel about all this. Because as you said, the 2 best players on the planet are on bad teams right now that are not winning games.
Right.
It has to feel the way.
And to your point, we always talk about the drop-off, whether or not a guy is subbed out or whether a guy is injured. Sometimes it's about the drop-off to the next guy. And what happened when they moved off of Drew Holiday to not address the issue that you said, which is point of attack defense, because everybody can just get their offense going then, which is even more killer when you play drop coverage with Brook Lopez, right? Like, you've got to have somebody that can stay in front of the ball. And when you go from Drew Holiday to Damian Lillard, you know that's going to be a deficiency. But then you're flanking with like Gary Trent. I mean, to not address somebody being able to get a stop on a perimeter player is just madness, truly madness. I mean, that is a failure by that front office by all accounts. Other things that happened last night that are worth mentioning. The Suns coming back from big deficit against the Clippers. Booker having a big night, right, against the Clippers, and storming back and winning that game. Wemby with his 5, 5, 5, 5, and 5, the 5-by-5 mark, which now he's done it twice in his career, which is crazy when you stand back and think about it. Like, and I always love when he does it. It's only happened once before, but even when people were talking about, like, here's a guy that could do this, that Andre Kirilenko, AK-47, gets his flowers every time they mention it. Because he's like the only guy, right? It's like the one weird, awkward stat that now everybody loves Wembanyama so much that anytime he does this, people give Kirilenko his flowers for pulling it off once upon a time. And then Rockets, really good win against the Mavericks on the Mavericks home court. Really good win for them. So, light night last night. There wasn't too much that went on, but we are going to go through, as we do every week, the players, teams, and things that we loved and loathed throughout this week of NBA basketball. All right, let's go with this week. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
I'm going to start.
Let me hear it.
Player that I love this week. I didn't see this coming. I really didn't. This player has bounced around more than someone with their talent should. And did you know there's a gentleman in the National Basketball Association with the first name Chavano? Buddy Hield's name is Chavano.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Wow.
If your name is Chavano, why do you need a nickname? It's such a great name. Like, why are you Buddy? How do you go from Chavano to Buddy? I had no idea. But I'm going to celebrate Buddy Hield on this pod for this week. The Warriors are 4-1. Steph Curry twists his ankle twice. 2 non-contact ankle rolls in the same game. And you're thinking, without Steph Curry, what can the Warriors possibly put together to win games? And Buddy Hield is just like, hold my beer. He has, this season, scored 22, 27, had a stinker against the Clippers, had 8, 28, and 21. He's 20 for 36 from 3, and he's just had 19 points in the fourth quarter last night, or 2 nights ago. Like, he's been killing it. Lindy Waters all of a sudden is playing, and Kuminga goes to the bench, and it's just Buddy Hield steps up. Kuminga plays better. I love what Buddy Hield has done for this team, and it seems like Buddy Hield is always about to explode, is about to be in the right system. And Steph even spoke about it after the game. He was like, right now, Buddy's in a system that he's comfortable in, and he's really just really, really, really acknowledging his role and killing it. I love what the Warriors of Buddy Hield have done. I did not expect them to be a 4-1 team at this point, at this juncture. I don't think they're going to stay at the top of the West, but I've been really impressed with what they have done, especially without Steph Curry.
I'm going to give you something I know about this situation. I have not talked to the individual about it, and I haven't read about it. There might be something locally that's already been written about it, but a guy that I know and I've known for a long time, Chris DeMarco, is one of their assistant coaches, and Chris was Clay's guy. Like, he was always Clay's guy. He always, like, if you ever went to a Warriors game, he was the guy working out with Clay. Through the summer, he was the guy working out with Clay. And then they kind of brought along Jordan Poole at the very beginning, and got his career going. But with the workouts and everything. The only reason I'm mentioning this is because obviously Clay is now gone. DeMarco is still there. Interestingly enough, DeMarco, in the summers, he's the head coach of the Bahamas national team.
Ah.
Yeah. So I guarantee that is playing a part in this. It's kind of like they went straight from Clay to now. This is a guy that has known him for a very long time and has worked with him for a very long time. So I bet what you'd find is this is a very natural fit for him. And there's a comfort zone that comes along with it. Also a guy that would know exactly the best ways to utilize Buddy Hield, right? Because he is his coach for the Bahamas every year, and he happens to be on that staff. And it was the first thing that went through my mind when they signed him this offseason. I'm like, oh, how about that? So Buddy Hield ends up there. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a big proponent of that taking place. And he has filled into that role, and especially in the absence of Steph Curry, they have needed this badly, Jacoby. They needed guys
no Curry,
to step
no Wiggins.
up. Right. Needed guys to step up.
You're playing the Pelicans twice, and Hield has stepped up. And that makes a lot of sense with the DeMarco connection, because Steph in the postgame talked about how much just Hield loves to hoop and how he feels so comfortable and how his role fits so well. And I think that it does sort of feel like they have some advanced intelligence on Hield, because he's only been there for 5 games and he has fit in so well that does make a lot of sense.
Well, and I'll tell you this, he is one of the he's one of the very few players I have ever seen. There was one day I was walking around FedEx Forum. I had to run over there and grab something. It not even like the team shoot around. The team had canceled their shoot around that day. This is when he was with Sacramento. Yeah, Sacramento, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But the team had canceled their shoot around that day. This guy was out on the court 10 a.m. He's the only player inside the arena in an absolute full sweat. Probably worked out for over an hour in there. Because I went and got my stuff, walked back, and I was like, you know what, man? I'll always kind of remember that. Like, here's a guy, they canceled the shoot around. He's in there. He's getting his shots no matter what. He was alone. Not even all these guys take a rebounder too. He didn't even have a rebounder with him. He's just going out there doing it himself. And I was like, hard work guy for sure. All right, the player I loved, and this is unfortunately going to have a great beginning and then a sad ending, Paolo Banchero. So he had a couple of duds. We had lauded him in that Orlando team early in the year, and he had a couple of duds. The Brooklyn game was kind of a dud. The Memphis game was kind of a dud. And then his response was playing against Indiana, which is a great team to get right against if you're an offensive player. But 37 in the first half is crazy, and ended up with 50, 13, and 9. That was after the 2 duds. And that's anytime you see these guys that have these dud games and then their response is something like that. And then he responded again by going to Chicago in a game that they narrowly lost, but he had 31, 7, and 4. So he played 2 games in the week and had 81 points, 20 rebounds, and 13 assists, which is just crazy. And then we get the news last night, which was the absolute worst Halloween news that you could get for a player. Well, maybe not the worst, but terrible news nonetheless, that he's got a torn oblique and is going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, which is, I mean, it's a big chunk of the season, season. And, some of those games that are going to be played for that in-season tournament, like he'll miss all of that, right? This is a team that would have been a fun in-season tournament team too. And certainly a guy that has broken straight through into what appeared to be superstardom very early in his career. Got $300-something million on the line, as we mentioned, if he makes an All-NBA team when it's extension time. But just terrible. And it's so crazy because my buddy Jeff Stotts, who's does In Street Clothes on Twitter, he's great with NBA injuries. If anybody wants to pay attention, he'll usually tell you what he's got a whole database of how long guys miss for different injuries. But I, interestingly enough, had to check what he had put about obliques because Desmond Bane went out with an oblique injury the other night, which is just you just don't see that injury.
Yeah, it's a weird injury. Yeah,
it's a back-to-back nights you had oblique injuries in the NBA, and obviously you hope that Baines isn't torn, clearly, but Paolo's being torn, and now 4 to 6 weeks, just brutal. But I was absolutely in love with them right before that happened, and so that made that news all the worse last night.
It was tough. And one of the things I loved about how Paolo started this year is you love to see the progression from year 1 to year 2 to year 3. And it really felt like he was taking a superstar turn. It really felt like his play was going to take the Magic to hosting a round 1 playoff series. That's how it felt. Yep. And he was carrying that team to wins. And I am very concerned about what they will do in his absence because he is so important to what they do because he can do everything. He shoots, he playmakes, he posts up, he rebounds, he defends. Like he does everything. And without him, that team looks very different.
They're about to go through what the Warriors are going through right now. And so is there a Buddy Hield that could step up for them?
Chavano Hield.
Chavano Hield. Is there a Chavano Hield?
Yes.
You know what? Of all your takes, I might agree with this one the most. I mean, Chavano Hield sounds so much cooler.
It's a great name.
It's a great name.
Buddy?
Yeah.
I'm calling him Chavano and I'm calling Steph Wardell. Wardell and Chavano.
Are you going to go? Are you going to go Demetrius for Ja Morant, or do you like Ja?
No. Just good.
Okay.
Just good. Oh man, the Banchero news is sad, but I'm glad that he's getting his flowers here in the mismatch. I'm going to do something now for the player that I loathe that's going to get me in some trouble. This is a bit of a zag, okay? And you mentioned him earlier in the show.
I did?
But one of the players that I loathe this week, Victor Wembanyama.
Boo! This is America's sweetheart. France's
Victor
sweetheart.
Wembanyama. Here's what happened. I was so excited for the Chet Wembanyama matchup. I was so excited. Like, I blocked out my day to watch these two go head-to-head. Because remember last year when they went head-to-head, it was appointment television. And I know he got hurt during the game, but he did come back and play. But he was so bad in that game. I think it was the worst I've ever seen him play. And it was a marquee matchup between him and Chet. And Chet is playing so well. And do you remember during the day, there was a reporter for ESPN, I'm sorry, I don't know his name, but he was saying that Victor Wembanyama refuses to say Chet Holmgren's name. Like they're building this up throughout the day. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They're like he doesn't say his name. Like he won't even mention him by name. And that was making its rounds through the day leading up to the game. And I was so excited for the two of them to go head to head. And Wembanyama, 1 for 5. How does Victor Wembanyama go 1 for 5? I know he was hurt for part of the game, but 1 for 5 in a marquee matchup against someone whose name you won't even say. And so far this year from 3, Wembanyama, 1 for 8, 2 for 5, 1 for 5, 0 for 3, 4 for 13.
Are you saying this is not the Banchero leap?
No.
Right, no. We were all waiting for how good can he be, how soon. And so far, It has not been that. You can,
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, everybody can pull off their pants for the 5x5, that he had last night, but it's not been thus far like, oh my goodness, he's here. This happened faster than we thought, ready to dominate the league.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fair.
It hasn't been that way.
You know what? I wanted to hate this, but look, how many times have you heard people having Wemby conversations so far this year?
No.
Yeah.
In the first play against the Thunder, the first play of the game. Again, I'm on my couch, popcorn, ready for the matchup. Lou Dort just pushes him off his spot and gets a steal. The first possession, he couldn't even get the ball. Lou Dort's pushing him around. And listen, I'm not sitting here and speaking into a microphone and saying Victor Wembanyama is not going to be a superstar, not going to be a good basketball player. I'm just saying thus far this season, I expected more from him. It's not about whether or not he is good. He is going to be a superstar. He's going to be an all-star. He's going to be all-NBA, perennial all-NBA for years to come. But expectations, he has not met the expectations. He has not met the expectations this year so far.
Do it.
You want me to do it?
You want to do it. Yeah. What is not meeting expectations?
He's overrated.
It's the exact definition.
I'm not saying he's bad at basketball. I'm saying I've been listening to so many people tell me that he is the next superstar. He's going to change the game. He's a unicorn. He's an alien. All of this. Guess what? Aliens shoot better from three. That's it. Aliens don't go 0 for 3. Aliens don't go 1 for 8.
He's going to have 38, 17, and 10 this weekend.
Oh, for sure.
He's for sure going to do it.
Delete all of this.
He's
Delete
for sure
all of
do
this,
it.
Producer Jesse.
There's going to be 2 games he's not going to say, Chet and Jacoby.
But I just want to say, I have expected more from him. He's only shot over 50% from the floor one time this year. Think about that. He's 8 feet tall. He's only shot over 50% one time this year. I want to see more from him. I'm an intelligent human being. I know that he is good at the sport of basketball, but I want to see more. I expected more. I want to see the Paolo type of trajectory where you get your feet wet in the first year, you start to play good in the second year, and then you play great in your third year. That's the Paolo Banchero trajectory. And right now, it still feels like we're in the feet wet phase.
And you wish you would have done something else that night.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Chet night? Yeah. I mean, it's a national TV game. I'm on my couch. I've got it circled. I'm only going to watch this game and this game only. And I just didn't see anything. And again, I realized that he was hurt. I get it, but he played. And when he was out there, it wasn't much. It wasn't.
The player that I loathed this week, Bam Adebayo. What is going on? Seriously, what is going on? 11-7, 39.5% from the field. They played 2 big-time teams this year, Orlando, and they got run out by 20 on their home court, and he was 1 of 5, I think, or something like that. Meanwhile, the Magic out-rebounded them by 16 in that game and just, bully-balled them, and he's the guy. And this is coming off Bam played for the Olympic team. Could this be the Bam?
Oh, he's shooting threes now. Remember that this offseason? Yeah. He's shooting threes.
And then he didn't come out against anybody that has been how do I say this? No one has ever mistaken Karl Anthony Towns for the Incredible Hulk. And yet Karl Anthony Towns had 44 and 13 on 17 of 25, 4 of 5 from 3. Meanwhile, on the other side, Bam's got this feeble ass 11 and 3. How is this? What happened here? I mean, is this the only guy who's in the world? Is this the only guy in the world? Now, again, I don't know everybody else's, mates. But is this the only guy in the world where it is plausible his girlfriend could have gotten the same numbers?
I did not know you were going to go there. Maybe the Dwayne Wade statue threw him off. Maybe that's what it is. What it is. But in the Knicks game, he made Karl Anthony Towns look like a bully ball player. Carlton Towns, I mean, I don't have
That's
numbers for him.
crazy.
Probably had 5 dunks in that game. He was getting his own rebound, getting offensive rebounds. Like, that's the Karl Anthony Towns that we've all been waiting for, but it was enabled by Bam Adebayo's defense.
Like that,
and that's what he hangs his hat on.
Well, you remember that first game? We were like, oh, well, what happened here with like Jimmy Butler was feeble, and then Bam Adebayo was like a minus 30 in that first game against Orlando. So like it's not like, you know, some of these teams you're seeing, like even last night, right, where I told you, hey, you know, Giannis is alone, right? Like they're able to play when he's on the court. You've seen it a bunch with Jokic already this year, right? Like the team's pretty good when you're out there. It ain't his fault. Like it's 100% Bam Adebayo. Like he's on the floor every time they're getting their ass kicked so far. And it's just bizarre. It's so bizarre. You could find there, if you give anybody those minutes, they're going to get you 11 and 7. You get anybody
on that team?
Yeah, you give anybody those minutes. I mean, they're going to get you 11 and 7. This guy is like, we're waiting for the leap coming up after, especially after, you know, you're around all the other best players in the league. You're learning all their best practices. You know, Simmons has always got this theory about how much this can help you by being a part of that. He's come in and like I guess he is the devil's advocate to that argument. Like this guy was a part of USA Basketball, the gold medal winning team. The guy has been an absolute dud so far.
And they were putting him in a position, this like work from the nail spot, kind of like using it as like an offensive hub last year, where he would get the ball at the nail, he would hit it if you didn't cover him, and if you covered him, he would play make. And it seemed like his sort of offensive distribution was working really well. And this year, I just haven't seen it.
Yep.
And you know what? When you put his name down on the rundown, I was pretty surprised. But watching that Knicks game, which was on, the World Series was on at the same time, so I was watching both. But watching the Knicks game, I was thinking, wow, what a great game from Karl Anthony Towns. He's really asserting himself. But I didn't look at it as, where is Bam Adebayo and how come he is not stopping Karl Anthony Towns?
I mean, they all bitch every year about him not getting Defensive Player of the Year. Mm-hmm. Nobody bitches more about how they don't respect what he is as a defender. Well, this one's not easy to forget. It's Cat, bro. No offense.
Interesting.
But
interesting.
44 and 13.
Who do you think will regret their take more? Me on Victor Wembanyama or you on Bam Adebayo? Probably me.
I mean, the odds, the FanDuel odds are minus a billion. That's why I wanted you to do it. I mean, your overrated all-star team is growing, and it's like a who's who really of the best players in the NBA.
Is.
I love it. All right, who's the team you loved?
It's the Cavs. I mean, it's obvious. Like, it's low-hanging fruit. They're undefeated, but they're just – the Lakers come to town, and they make light work of them. Now, I think one thing that's important to recognize, especially this early in the season, is they've played the Raptors, the Pistons. They got a good win against the Knicks. They played the Raptors, the Pistons, and the Wizards, all right? So they've really only played the Knicks and the Lakers, but you can only play who's in front of you, and they have made light work of all of it. The Atkinson's diet is really working for them. Yep. And when you think about the Cavs, and we've celebrated them before in this pod, you think about Garland and Mitchell, and you think about, Allen and Mobley. But what they've done without Strus, with Dean Wade, Karis LeVert, Sam Merrill, and my guy George Niang, like, they're making it work. Like, that's really the question for me is about that fifth spot, like the wing spot. They don't really have a true wing without Strus in particular.
Right.
But they are right now early. It's early, but they're
you want LeVert
rating.
As a bench heater.
Yeah. You need that. You can't start him. But they're first in offensive rating. They're third in defensive rating. So again, super early in the season. They're not going to stay there. But first in offense and third in defense, that's going to get you wins. And they've got 28 and 28.4 assists per game. They're fifth in the league. They move the ball. It's a good team to watch. And they're shooting 41% from three. Like, sometimes you can't give too much credit to like JJ Redick or Kenny Atkinson, but sometimes you just need a different voice in the locker room. And Atkinson has certainly sort of added a boost to this team and getting more from the players that they had last year because they didn't really make any huge roster changes.
Well, and the other thing is maximizing guys. Maximize, that's the thing we always wondered, is there too much overlap in that these guys are just you're never going to simultaneously be able to get all of them to be fantastic. And yet so far this year, and I think the revelation early in the season has been Garland. I think we all expected Mobley was going to, and they're going to be able to mix and match Mobley and Allen to be able to, stagger that, in times to be able to make that effective for both of them. But the Garland-Mitchell thing, and because Garland went through the season from hell last year, we've mentioned this a couple times already this year. He made the All-Star team. He was on the trajectory to being one of the big-time guards and a fantastic, efficient player. And he's had some really good early season games. Really good early season games. Yeah. And so I'm with you. Atkinson diet's working. Totally fair. And boy, they put a number on the Lakers.
Oh yeah.
It's nice to see Bronny score though.
Sure. But that's the story out of the game. The story is, guess what? Bronny made a basket. Like, all right, he's a professional basketball player. What about the fact that the Cavs are undefeated and they waxed the Lakers?
It was in
and they made light work of the Knicks too. They look good.
I mean, it's a homecoming. Come on, Jacoby. Of course that's going to be the story.
No. He made a basket. Good job. I also think that when you look at the roster and you point out redundancies, you're like, Allen and Mobley are redundant. Garland and Mitchell are redundant. That you look at that like it's a negative, but the fact is they always at all times have at least two of them on the floor. So they do stagger it really well. I think the Atkinson diet is really looking great on the Cavs. Look, they're gonna host a playoff series.
That's fine, but if you mention that game, the story is Bronny, Jacoby.
Look, come on.
Here's what we know. If Bronny plays, things either went unbelievably well or super terrible.
It was fine. One of the things about Bronny that I love is they've already said that he's on this first road trip. This is all right, here's your road trip. Mm-hmm. And he's going straight to the South Bay Lakers when they get back. He's going straight to the South Bay Lakers. And you will not see him again.
We already kind of touched on them because they are, because you mentioned the team in the players that you love in Buddy Hield. But I got to give the Warriors their flowers.
Chavano.
I'm sorry. Chavano Hield. But I got to give the Warriors their flowers. And the reason I'm bringing this up is beyond the fact that they won their 2 games against the Pelicans this week, okay? It's not easy to beat somebody, then play them again the next night and beat them again. Theoretically, the team that loses is going to go back and watch the game tape, and they're going to say, okay, we did this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. Here's how we're going to combat it the next night. And then they turn around. Like we see this a lot throughout the NBA playoffs, right? In games 1 and games 2. A lot of times, even if it's a blowout in game 1, game 2 is a much closer game, even if the other team doesn't turn the tables. But for them to be able to win those 2 games in a row, and more importantly, any win that they're able to grab without Steph Curry is a great win, right? Their winning percentage without Curry has been super bleak. And obviously we know what he brings to the table and the gravity that he brings to that team. But you have these guys stepping up. Kuminga, who they moved to the bench and actually broke out, had his first 2 good games as a bench guy for them as they moved Moody in there. They've gotten production out of Trace Jackson. They've gotten production out of, as you mentioned, Chavano Hield. They even got production out of Lindy Waters. Yeah, Lindy Waters. And so the other thing that is important is, we have projected, and who knows the way the season is going to go. They've started off 4-1, but you're going to look back and these kind of games can loom enormous, especially when we get to the end of the year. I don't think anybody's fancied them as a top 6 seed. Maybe they will shock us, right? But anytime, and so the records are all going to get batted around. But anytime they can win without Curry is a great job. And then when you catch those 2 wins against the Pelicans, those could loom. I know it seems crazy, and it's very early in the schedule, but those could loom very large when it comes to the end of the season, right? If you took those 2 losses to the Pelicans, that's a team that you could for sure be right next to in the standings. And that could be the difference between you not, being the 7 or 8 or the 9 or 10, or maybe even the 11 or the 10, right? You never know. And so not only did they get those 2 wins without Curry, they got those wins against somebody who is a direct peer of theirs, because we threw the Pelicans in the exact same bin that we threw the Warriors. And yes, it's very early in the schedule, first 5 games of the season, but you could look back at the end of the season, and those games mattered a great, great deal. And so to not even split those, that's a good job by them. That's a really good job by them.
And with no Wiggins, too.
Yeah, no Wiggins, too.
So you take out Steph, you take out Wiggins. Like, I didn't even know where the offense is going to come from. And Javon O'Heald steps up. Trace Jackson-Davis has been playing well for them as well.
Yeah.
They're really getting the most of what they have. Now, unlike other teams where I think the hot start is indicative of where they will stay, I do not think the Warriors will stay at the top of the Western Conference. I think they will slide regardless of the health of Steph Curry or whatever. But they're doing it. And
and that's why I said, that's one of their peers. Yeah. One of their peers is the Pelicans. Like, we're not looking at them and going, hey, you never know, that might matter in a tiebreaker versus Oklahoma City. Like, I'm talking about a tiebreaker against the Pelicans where it could matter.
And Draymond's got the gray in his beard, he's getting a little older, but he's making it hard for Zion Williamson. I think he drew 2 charges on Zion last night. Like Draymond will still play some defense. Like, he's not going to be all NBA, but he'll still make it hard night for you if you're a player like Zion Williamson. We've spoken about this team earlier, but this is one of the Nuggets we've discussed. But now it's time to talk a little bit more about the Milwaukee Bucks. What is going on? Like, what is happening here? You celebrate the Warriors. They lose Steph Curry. They lose Andrew Wiggins. They still win games. The Bucks, they're without Chris Middleton, but they've got their guys. They've got a top 3 player in Giannis Antetokounmpo. You can't put him outside the top 3. They've got Dame Lillard. Dame Lillard, 1 for 12. 0 for 6 from 3, minus 27 last night.
There is no chemistry between them. There's none. There's no chemistry between the 2 best players.
So I fooled myself into thinking that last year was a bit of a sort of anomaly for the Milwaukee Bucks. Do you remember Dame saying that there wasn't much to do in Milwaukee, and he went through some off-court issues in his family life, and they had the coaching change early in the season, which is a little weird. And I said to myself, all of those things, all of that dust has settled. That year 2 will be a different experience for Dame in Milwaukee. So far, it's worse than it was last year. This team, last night, you were at the game. They had, so let's say an NBA basketball game is around 100 possessions, right? Let's just call it 100 possessions, okay? They had 20 assists. So think about that. 20 assists. Only 20 times did a player pass the ball to another player for a basket. That's a really low number. They have 22.3 assists per game. That's 25th in the league. 25th. So there's only 5 teams that have less assists per game than them. It's a mess. And
how is a Damian when they made that deal, we all sat back and said, a Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo pick and roll is like Super Saiyan, Stockton and Malone. Like, this is unstoppable. What are you going to do? You have no good choice. They don't even run it. Like, this isn't even like part of what they do. It's crazy to me. It is absolutely crazy. Watch the way they function. And they just don't, they have no chemistry. None.
So
None.
You're at the game. You
Yes.
sit close. Tell me what you feel from this team.
Oh, no, that's what I was saying to you with to start the show. It's just 5 guys that are out there. It's Giannis and 4 guys. And obviously, look, fair is fair. I saw the worst Damian Lillard performance this morning, right? Like, I mean, it got to the point where when I was scrolling through my Instagram this morning, he made there's like an Instagram that puts the It's like the Chinese song in the background, and then they put up their stats. Like the player's going to have to go play in China.
Oh, no. They did that to Dame?
Yeah. They did it to Dame this morning.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, I saw the worst of the worst. But, like, you watch teams and the way they communicate with each other, and the way they huddle with each other, and the way they interact with their
That's what I
coach
mean.
and everything else. Oh, there's nothing. I mean, it's lifeless. There's no togetherness. It's just guy pointing here, guy pointing there, and taking the ball out of the basket with their heads down. I'm telling you, I texted you guys last night. It is bad vibes, man. Bad vibes.
They lost to the Nets and the Bulls.
I know. I watched the Grizzlies.
The Nets.
I watched both of them.
The Nets and the Bulls.
And let me tell you this. The way those teams interacted with each other, infinitely better than the way the Bucks did. Now, again, they were winning. But even when they were losing, those guys were still, like, talking, communicating, right, with each other, right? You could tell that they were trying to get on the same page. And then they ended up doing it. Both those guys. Both those teams. And by the way, that Schroeder-Cam Thomas backcourt is cooking.
Yeah,
It wasn't just Memphis. They've been cooking,
Schroeder
man.
had like 33 last night. Yeah.
They almost had a couple of really good ones this week. I mean, they should have won that Denver game. Then they came to Memphis and on the second night of a back-to-back, busted their ass.
I'm like 2 weeks away from.
You got to watch out.
I'm 2 weeks away from celebrating Ben Simmons. Just give me 2 weeks.
No,
give me two more weeks.
The Nets are that, like, they're one of those teams because they've got enough of those guys that, like, really do give a shit. They're one of those teams that everybody is gonna, like, just be like, oh shit, we're playing the Nets, and they're gonna, like, catch teams, especially early in the season.
They already have.
Just because you look up and you're like, damn, man, Dennis Schroeder's got 30.
How'd that happen?
Like, he's gonna try. Like, a lot of these teams, a lot of the tanking teams, it doesn't happen until later in the season, but they're just lifeless too. But what was crazy is this is a team that, like, we think of as a possible title contender with the Bucks simply because of their best player, and they were just a lifeless mess. Truly, lifeless mess.
So we have to have we're obligated as NBA podcasters to have the conversation. What about a Giannis trade?
Not yet.
If this season goes the way it's going.
Not yet.
If it goes the way it's going.
No, you try to exhaust everything you can. Like, again, I think, this is my opinion, the much more likely scenario, everybody's talking about Giannis. Oh, Giannis is going to have to get out of there. Giannis is going to get out of there, right? He signed the extension there. He wants to be there as long as they can build around him. You just waved the white flag on the Dame thing. This wasn't the match. The guy never wanted to be here. And let's go ahead and get max value that we can.
What is the market for Dame Lillard?
I mean, would you?
Who wants Dame Lillard right now?
Wouldn't you revisit the Miami thing and try to get Butler? Again, you're always in win now mode when you've got one of these players. You know what I mean?
It is. I mean, we said it earlier this week, but it is interesting just the parallel between the Nuggets and the Bucks. You know, two teams that have recently won championships that doubled down on that core, and now that core is turning on them.
Yeah, I mean, you try to find somebody out there that really wants Lillard and thinks they could take them to. They need it. They think they can take them to the next level, and the easiest one to go at is hopefully you can catch a frustrated Miami Heat and just say, all right, bro, you always wanted to be there anyway. Let's see if we can actually get real value from them now. And then you try to build out around Giannis a different way.
I don't know.
Right? I mean, you try to build around you. Look, dude, you exhaust everything you can.
Defense.
Everybody's going to be, everybody's always going to say, trade Giannis, trade Giannis, trade Giannis, right? Like, I think you exhaust everything before you do. And you try to you give it one more crack, and obviously you get the next one wrong. Now you got 3 strikes, right? Because you moved Drew Holiday, you tried Dame Lillard, and now whatever you try next.
There's a part of Drew Holiday that enjoys this. There has to be.
Like all of Drew Holiday, 100%. 100%.
There has to be a part of Drew Holiday. It's like, yeah, when I was there, we won a championship, and then you guys traded me for Dame Lillard, and now look at you. Oh, by the way, I also won a championship last year, just so you know.
Right.
Love that for Drew Holiday. All right, so we did teams.
By the way, go even look. If you go to like ESPN.com, whatever, they got the headshot for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Go look at Lillard's. He wouldn't even fake a smile on media day. And it's not the it's the worst kind. People are gonna think I'm crazy here. It's the worst kind because there's the I'm making a serious face to show that I'm about business. There's the typical smile for the camera, like most people do.
I'm looking it up now.
And he gives it this like meh half smile.
Just apathy.
Just
apathy.
His picture tells you I hate this. I'm cold. I have no buddies here. No, I'm a hero to nobody.
This
sucks.
It's bad. I'm looking at it right now.
You.
He's trying to smile. His face won't even let him smile.
No, he can't do it.
His face won't let him smile.
It won't let him. Oh,
God.
It's a tough one.
And also, in last year, it was like, there's nothing to do in Milwaukee. It's like, bro, you were in Portland. Like, you got to make the most of it. You're making $50 million a year.
He had family and friends there, at least.
I guess.
Andy was God.
Oh, my God. He had 4 points, 2 rebounds, and 6 assists last night. He's a minus 29. That's why he's not smiling. He's really not smiling. If you're listening to this podcast, push pause and look up Dame Lillard on ESPN.com.
I told you.
His face, he's got the strangest face.
It's the most I don't want to do this. I don't, And that's the picture that that's the picture everybody's going to see all year. That's why Jimmy Butler,
that's the best one. They took 50 of these. That's the best one.
They're like, smile, Dame.
No.
No. All right.
No.
Yeah.
God.
It's tough.
Oh, God.
Tough scene for my guy.
That just made me sad. Can we go positive, though? This one's right up your alley. I did this for you.
All right.
This is my gift to you, Chris Vernon. The thing that I love this week.
No, I didn't get to do the team I loathed.
Oh, do the team you loathed.
You were the Bucks.
I was excited, too. I was going to give you a gift.
Well,
I got a gift for you later.
All right. I had to go with the Hawks. Give me a break. All right. The Hawks losing to the Wizards is despicable. Okay?
I know.
That it's despicable to lose to the Wizards. But we are very early in the season, and I'll give them a bit of a pass. Oh, wait. They lost to the Wizards twice.
Back-to-back games.
Bro, losing to the Wizards twice is worthy of me loathing you. That's crazy. Yeah. And I mean, the only thing you did, and Bilal Coulibaly, who should have been on my players. They turned him into a superstar. Guy has a career high 27 against them. But to lose to them and then turn around. So you lose to them and then you turn around and lose to them worse. Theoretically, you made adjustments to deal with the Wizards and got beat worse.
Bilal Coulibaly was shocked that he was Bilal Coulibaly. He was like, I have how many points? It was possible.
Unheard of. Truly unheard of. For them
one of those games, Trae Young was really, really bad.
Yeah.
Like I'll look it up. I think it was like 2 for 15 or something.
The first one. The second one, he had 35 and 15. But the first one, he was a dud.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, nice adjustments. Coach him up, Quinn.
Coulibaly.
27.
11 for 14 from the field.
Yeah.
Coulibaly.
Watch out.
Coulibaly.
Shout out to Joe House.
Is he better than Wembanyama?
Hey, stop the season.
Would you rather build your franchise around Coulibaly or Wembanyama? Who would you rather build your franchise around?
You know what? Coulibaly was probably like, you know what? I'm tired of all this Ricochet shit. I'm the guy. I'm the guy. Who cares about Ricochet? I'm the guy.
Coulibaly was on that weird made-up team that Wembanyama was on, like Metropolis 92
Yeah.
or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, he was on that team.
Yes.
God, Bilal Koulibaly.
The French AAU team. The French AAU team.
I was like, what is this team? What league is this team in? Like, oh, no. So, is this team just before? No. Is it going to exist after? No.
They're
so
gone.
It's like, all right. It's like some guys. Yeah. All right. I guess so.
All right. The thing you loved. Let me hear it.
This is for you.
Oh.
I just want everyone to know that if you are part of the Huff Hive, this is the podcast for you. The thing that I loved is just everything about Jay Huff. And if you're unfamiliar, he's on the Grizzlies.
Oh. Hold on a second. Hold on.
Verno just stopped the show, walked away from his seat, and he's going to come back. Well, one thing that I'll fill time with is the thing I love this week was Huff, not just signing a 4-year deal, but showing up on Halloween as Kyle Kuzma with the sweater. Yeah, look at that.
Look,
so now
this is the best present I've ever gotten from Joe House. When we did a live show in Memphis, Joe House brought me this. The Kyle Kuzma
bobblehead. And Huff dressed as Kyle Kuzma on Halloween. And he signed a 4-year deal. I've seen this man dunk. I've seen him hit threes. I've seen him block shots. This is the Huff Hive. If you want any updates on Jay Huff and the latest of Jay Huff, you will get it right here in the Mismatch twice a week.
Yeah, unbelievable. Jay Huff, who played at Virginia, and then he actually won G League Defensive Player of the Year and has kind of bounced around, but now he has been signed up to a minimum contract for
4 years.
Yeah, years down the road, which, look, Memphis has done that with 4 different guys now, which is exactly the kind of thing. If you got guys that can actually play, it's the best thing that can ever happen for your franchise if you can find them and you can get them on these 2-way contracts. There's now 4 guys that have been converted from 2-ways to roster spots with long-term minimum deals. Scottie Pippen Jr., G.G. Jackson, Vince Williams, and now Jay Huff. And in this era where you are having to pay your best players, right? So Jaren Jackson Jr. will be in line for a max. And, John Morant's contract, the next one will be insane. Desmond Bane already got his max extension. Like, you have to have guys that can outperform contracts. That's the only way. That's the way it goes, right? And juxtaposed when you see, like, I'm watching Milwaukee last night, and it's a perfect example, right? Where now they're guys that they've brought in on low deals, right? Like the Taurean Princes and the DeLon Wrights and the Gary Trent Jr.'s and the whatever, right? It's like, if you can find young guys that can outperform their contracts, that's the gold in the NBA. And who knows? I mean, there's no risk when you sign these guys to minimum deals because, especially with the way the cap is now, if it doesn't work out, then okay. Like, we'll take the cap hit every year because it's a couple $1 million. But he's a cool story for sure. And he's had some big nights. And that Halloween costume was out of control.
Loved it.
I don't even know where. And by the way, he's 7 foot tall. So do you know how long? I mean, where do you even? How would you even go about ordering that?
You have to plan that in advance. Yeah. Like 3 weeks ago, he was like, I'm going to dress as Kyle Kuzma for Halloween. Like in September, he decided.
Do you have to have it made? Like, there's no way, because there's no way he
can't buy that off the rack.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, but I'm saying, like, I don't even know who sells that, but surely, right? You didn't buy the same one Kyle Kuzma did because he probably spent $2,000 on it, right?
And Kyle Kuzma retired from Tunnel Fits. He said he's like, I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore. And I don't know. Somehow the world's still spinning. Somehow I still wake up every day. Yeah,
it was too much effort. Well, I mean, look, it is kind of like walk out on top, bro. After you had that huge, the black puffer coat where like his head was sticking out, and then the sweater. I mean, that's kind of like it's kind of like Elway. Just walk out while you're on top.
Joe House is the best.
Just walk away.
Okay.
All right. The thing I loved this week. Oh, you're going to love this. Oh, are you going to love this? All right. So your beloved Joe Mazzulla, who I know you're a huge fan of, Joe Mazzulla said, quote, "The biggest thing that we rob people from an entertainment standpoint is you can't fight anymore. I wish we'd bring back like fighting. Missoula told NBC Sports Boston, you want to talk about robbing the league of entertainment? What's more entertaining than a little scuffle? How come in baseball they're allowed to clear the benches? How come in hockey they're allowed to fight? I don't understand. Okay. I love this. I love this so
Fantastic.
much. Because it can be taken either as a totally unserious thing and you don't know if he's trolling, or is this guy really serious? And the reason I love it is because it gives you that debate where something is so crazy that you don't know whether or not the guy is serious or not.
Most of the things he says are like that.
And he's saying it, he's either in character, right? Because he's not saying this like to let you believe that he's trolling. So then you are led to believe this guy's serious. But then there's that part of you that's like, there's no way he's serious, right? Like, there's no way. And the fact that this guy is keeping me on edge, I mean, obviously I lean towards the guy's just a nutball, but I mean, and maybe he doesn't remember the Malice in the Palace. I don't know. Like, I mean, that's obviously an easy retort, is to be like, hey, man, the reason that this, here's a 30 for 30 you could watch just in case. Just in case you happen to forget.
All right, instead of The Town for the 4,000th time, just watch this 30 for 30. But
like we did have fighting, like we did have that, we did, and then this like horrible thing happened.
But so here's what I love about this quote so much, is he's user friendly. He's like, this is what we rob the people of.
Yeah.
He's like, we take this from the viewers.
Yes.
The NBA fans are being robbed. It's a disservice to our paying customers that we're not allowed to fight. Yes. And then this was the headline, but he also said he wanted like hockey style, like a penalty box. So you'd have to go 4-on-5 for a while if someone had a flagrant foul or whatever.
And so look, and obviously there's a debate that goes along with this. My favorite, I'm about to give you the debate. I think you and I both, when you think back to like maybe some of our favorite basketball memories, right? Okay. You as a Knicks fan, me as a Grizzlies fan. Mm-hmm. My favorite team all time is the Grit Grind Grizzlies. Having fighting would have been amazing. There are some of these teams in league history, and by the way, his team right now, he doesn't want that team to fight. Like Luke Cornett, like get the out of here. Like, come on, Joe. If we had fighting, your team is not the best team. Okay? If we had fighting right now in the NBA, they ain't the best team. But my favorite team of all time are like those 90s Knicks. Like, can you imagine like the 90s Knicks and Jeff Van Gundy was hanging on a dude's leg during the Knicks and the Heat when they were still letting them go. And so, obviously, look, if they let guys fight,
Charles Oakley would be back in the league
for sure. Oh, and Haslam. I mean, this is like his first year away. He's like, I'm strapping him back up.
But another thing. So here's what Missoula's doing here. I think he's serious, right? Like I think he's actually serious. And remember, he's a big jiu-jitsu guy. So he spends most of his time doing jiu-jitsu and learning how to fight. So I think that he's like in this mentality.
Most of his time doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, the majority of his time on the planet is spent wrestling. But he spends a lot of time thinking about jiu-jitsu and practicing jiu-jitsu. So he's in the gym, not lifting weights or running on a treadmill. He's fighting. So I think that's part of his mentality, is like, we should be allowed to fight. I think he wants to fight other head coaches. I think that's really what it is. I think he just wants to fight other head coaches.
Well, the answer is, and forgive me because I don't know if he's the answer is whoever has James Johnson. That's
Yeah.
the team that wins.
He's on the Pacers now. Never
Okay.
plays.
Okay, but
Never plays.
Well, it doesn't matter. That's the team that like I don't care. That guy is like a literal black belt.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter if the rest of your guy, like Tyrese Halliburton, could just sit over on the side. Like James Johnson will take care of it. That guy is a lethal. Like he's a legitimately lethal human being. Missoula. Oh, you think Missoula just wants to fight the other coaches?
I think he wants to fight. Yeah. Remember, he's a jiu-jitsu guy.
All right.
He knows that he will win the fights.
I wish you would have prepared me for this because I'm looking up and down. Now I got to see. I know he's a jiu-jitsu guy, but I'm seeing if there's anybody just right off the bat that I can look at.
Ime.
Yeah. Ime Udoka he could probably scrap. You look up and down now. There ain't a lot of these guys that you'd want to go to. No.
I'm not picking Mark Dagnall over Missoula.
Right?
And we got jiu-jitsu is, remember, people always think about fighting as like punching, but like jiu-jitsu, that'll prepare you to win some things. Good for Missoula. He really wants to fight. Really, he wants to fight. It's not about disservice to the fans. It's about him wanting to fight other head coaches.
Maybe
if you gave him truth serum, he'd be like, really, it's about me. I just really want to beat the shit out of the other head coaches in the league.
Maybe Jason Kidd could scrap.
Mosley?
Yeah, maybe Willie Green could scrap. Yeah, we're light.
It's got to be I'd take Missoula and Ime. Those are going to be your number 1 and number 2 seeds.
Chauncey may be able to scrap a little bit, possibly. I don't know. All right. So that was the thing you loved this week. All right, the thing that you loathed.
So I don't like covering the coverage, right? I don't like sort of like talking about media as a member of the media.
Okay.
But the thing that I didn't like this week comes from a player that has a very long career in the media. This player is my prediction to be sort of like the next sort of Charles Barkley. And that is Draymond Green. Famously has his own podcast. I think that he's going to have a very, very good post-basketball media career. He's already got a successful podcast. And he mentioned this week, he was very critical of the way that the Oklahoma City Thunder do their post-game interviews. And the way that they do them as a group and how they bark like dogs. And he's like, there's something, it's hard to win in the league. It's an honor to have a post-game interview and having the whole group there. He was critical of it. And I was like, Draymond, you're anti-fun? Like you don't like collective happiness? Like you don't like teammates supporting teammates? Like what is it about this that bothers you? Because I love the fact that they do their interviews the way they do their interviews in post games. And it reminded me of one thing that I was thinking about Draymond's Warriors. Before they won, do you remember that OT Genesis song? I'm in love with the cuckoo. Remember that song?
I know every OT Genesis song.
OT Genesis doesn't know every OT Genesis song. But I remember a Warriors team playing video of them all singing that song. And I remember thinking to myself, those guys are having so much fun together. They're having so much fun playing basketball together. And that exact same year, they won the championship. And I felt the same way about the Thunder. I was like, those guys are having so much fun being together on the court, off the court, practice, trips, flights, meals, that they have this group dynamic where no one stands out above the whole sum of the parts. And I love that about the Thunder. And I love the way they do their post-game interviews. And I feel like Draymond was being a little bit of a hater. That's the thing I love this week.
This is perfect because we've never spoken about this. Oklahoma City rallying everybody, all their young guys like, yeah. And the rally after the game and everything is 100% complete biter bullshit.
Come on.
They stole this from Memphis. They literally stole it. They are a cheap knockoff of what happened with John Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson, Tyus Jones, DeAnthony Melton, Kyle Anderson, Steven Adams, Brandon Clark. This was a Memphis thing that they did, and they're the new Memphis. They just came last year. The whole Memphis team got hurt. And so they just said, oh, we're the new Memphis. We're bootleg Memphis. That's what we are. We're small market.
How dare you?
Everybody cheers for us. Bootleg Memphis. And they stole word for word, bar for bar, just like Drake did with Soulja Boy. Word for word, bar for bar. Kiss you through the phone. They've stolen everything that Memphis did. I wouldn't be surprised if they start playing 3-6 Mafia at their games. This is and Draymond, to his credit, I'm going to stand up for him. He shit all over Memphis every time Memphis did it and said, these young bucks, this ain't time to win for them yet. This ain't what they're unserious. They're unserious. They're young. They think they're hot shit. This isn't how you win. They're unserious. And guess what? Draymond was right. He was right. And in fact, they're the ones that took down the Grizzlies. And he was right. And that's when he famously told Dylan Brooks, shut the F up. The dynasty starts after you in Memphis. And it's like this. So this is par for the course with Draymond. He did this, but now everybody's beloved Oklahoma City Thunder. Oh, we all love the Oklahoma City. Let me tell you something. There ain't an original thing they're doing with that. Go back and watch. Memphis did this every postgame. Every postgame. And they just stole it. Word for word, bar for bar. Draymond was right about the Grizzlies, and Draymond is right about the Thunder as well. They ain't going to win shit.
Chris, you sound jealous. You sound vindictive. You sound insecure. And you sound like a homer.
Tried to build their team the exact same way. Oh, they've got Ja Morant. Okay, it's Ja Morant, and it's Desmond Bane, and it's Jaren Jackson. And so they said, oh, okay, we'll get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren. Yeah, okay. All right. Look, word for word, bar for bar.
No, you are correct. They both did do group interviews after the games. However, the Thunder will have the best record in the Western Conference and will be title contenders, whereas the Grizzlies never were.
What do you mean they weren't? They were a 2 seed, for goodness sakes. Okay? They were a 2 seed.
How'd that work out?
Okay? How'd it work out for the Thunder last year? Watch it, Derrick Jones Jr. hit another 3? Get out of here. Come on.
Worked out great.
What have they done?
Do you know what they're not doing in Oklahoma City when they do those group interviews? They're not saying, oh, wait, how did Memphis do it? Let's do it like that. That's not what they're doing.
100%. They saw Memphis and just took their style. Word for word, bar for bar.
I guess you hate chemistry and you hate teammates and you hate fun. I understand.
That's not true. All right, the thing I loved this week was this announcement that was going around about Stephon Marbury II going to Cal. I was like, oh, come on. All right, I can't take this anymore. Like, there's not a day that goes by. You and I are both older, but we don't feel old. And yet,
I'm old.
This stuff happens where I'm constantly reminded. So is Stephon Marbury II going to Cal, and he's going to team up with Peja's kid, Peja Stojakovic's kid. And now there's not a day that goes by. Obviously, the worst one for me is DJ Wagner, because I covered DeJuan Wagner at Memphis. Okay. So that one is like at 19, like he was fresh out of high school. I covered DeJuan Wagner. So that one hurts. Also, it hurt for me to see Jace Richardson at Michigan State, because the first NBA coverage I ever did was I went to a Jason Richardson versus Trenton Hassel draft workout for the Grizzlies. And now Jace Richardson is at Michigan State. That is
Carmelo Anthony's kid. I feel like Carmelo Anthony was at Syracuse like 10 years ago. And now his kid's in college, going to be in college.
Oh, look,
even Trace Jackson Davis. That's one of the Davis's kids.
Oh, look.
From the Pacers.
There's Boozer's got the kid, Arenas got the kid, Carmelo's got the kid, right? In football, there's all kinds, like, you're tuning in and you're watching, Michigan
Asante
State.
Samuel.
Yeah, Michigan State's got Antonio Gates Jr. Like, what are we doing? What? I feel like I just watched him. Or I just saw Clinton Portis' kid, like, just committed somewhere, and I'm like, okay, dude, this is troubling, right? These are all the guys that I felt
Plaxico Burress' kid is going to Notre Dame.
Yeah. Oh, and then, look, the other worst one for me is, a kid that was an elementary school, like kindergarten age, Zebo's daughter sat behind me at every game. Like, she sat on the front row and I was on media row, and she was just a McDonald's All-American, is about to start her freshman year at Louisville. And I'm like, okay. I'm out of here. Stephon Marbury II. That's crazy. Enough.
Going to Cal.
I know. Going to California. So I loathe that every week I'm constantly made to feel old. No, not good.
So Stephon Marbury famously sort of like caught on in China, and he's beloved there. Yeah. And they did a bio musical about his life, and I'm dying to see a Chinese musical about the life of Stephon Marbury. I might fly all the way across the world just to see that production. I'm going to do some research after the pod and see if it's still running, because I will see that thing. I would love nothing more than to see a Chinese musical about the life of Stephon Marbury.
It's amazing. All right, thanks for listening to another episode of The Mismatch. Thanks, as always, to Dave Jacoby. Thanks to our executive producer, Jesse Lopez, and we will talk to you next week.